You know, one of the things that I do and that I find is very important within our Black conscious, Pan-African and African spiritual spaces is to have conversations about how we relate as African women and African men. And let me speak about that not just in the romantic or sacred union space, because that's a conversation that is necessary too. But I want to talk about how we relate just as entities. And I think in our conversation today, we have spoken about how, as an African man, there's a godliness within you. As an African woman, there's a goddess within you. And because of the generations we have lived with disconnect, lived with frustration, lived with always having to fight just to exist, we have also reduced the levels of recognizing our own and each other's godliness to a very alarming level. And let me speak as a man first and foremost. I think many of us as African men, we carry hatred towards the African woman. And when I say that, I know some men always almost want to disengage with the conversation. Here we go again. We always have to be apologetic. We always have to be understanding. Women are also toxic. Women are also, yes, and that's true. But why can't we first take some accountability for what is imbalanced with us? And even if you want to, because some believe that men are more able than women. I don't believe that. But if that's what you believe, shouldn't you then set the example? Shouldn't you be the one that women see, wow, you're doing it that way? That's inspiring. I think I need to do more of that. If you think if you are so able to set the pace and really demonstrate what is necessary and what is important. For me, I think the way I have learned more, and I'm not saying that I know and understand everything that an African woman goes through, but I've spent a lot of time with incredible sisters around me that I have not been involved with in any other way than being a colleague, being a fellow soldier, warrior in this world, working together on projects, but also having the time to listen to how they move in this world. Why this one always speaks loud, why this one is more quiet, the different tapestries of strength within the African woman. Because I think when we come with our concepts of masculine strength, we often only look for one way to respond to that. Many of us are saying now that women are too masculine. But whatever that means, and maybe to many men that means that too many women, they have opinions, they take charge of their life, they have a lot of ideas about what they want to do, and they actually are able to do it. Maybe that's what some men refer to as masculinity, and that they don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to be taught how to behave. They don't want to be these receptors of male messages all the time. And because we become insecure when we don't know what our role is around a woman who seems to have everything, we maybe then fire back and say, you are too masculine. You don't give me an opening to see where I can come in and be somebody. I think in that we play a very strong role in destroying and minimizing African women into something that they perceive as if we only want them to be something on our side, something that should help to glorify our greatness and not stand and shine in their own light. And I think this is so problematic, especially if you say that this is your interpretation of what African culture really is, to make sure that a woman knows her place. And we know what that often means. A woman must not speak. She mustn't be visible. She mustn't do this. We claim that that's the African story. We are doing incredible injustice to our ancestors, because in our ancient world, African women walked in power. And we all benefited from that power. So when we now have also come up with a story to say that African women in their power will also choose us out, I think we have taken on the fear of what whiteness is in this world. Whiteness moves in this world with the fear of extinction. White people know deep down that if we really moved in the world similar to them, our goal would be to take them out, which is possible. We can take white people out. And I think genetically, they may not often confess this, but I think deep down they sit with the fear of saying that if Black people come to their senses, if they really are in their full power, they will get rid of us. And even if they don't do it violently, they will do it genetically. We are going to disappear. White people are becoming extinct in this world. And that's a fear of not surviving. And I think as Black men who for generations have lived to be forced to take on certain aspects of white performance. When we are leaders, we need to act white. I'm talking about the corporate space. I'm talking about the government space. I'm talking about the academic spaces. We need to perform a lot of whiteness. We need to mask our presentation in ways that we know are adaptable and liked by whiteness or white people. And as much as we may be aware that I'm only doing this for these few hours that I'm at work, it becomes something that also I'm mixing it now. It becomes my identity. I behave like this and I pass it on to my sons. I pass it on to younger men. And they also now start to see this as, this is the definition of being an intelligent, powerful, important man in this world. But can I even profess to be a powerful man if part of my power, a very fundamental part of my power, is that the woman must not have power? Like, that doesn't make sense. And it mustn't make sense if I profess that I'm taking this from African knowledge, because it's not true. So I want to challenge us as African men. And I think part of our problem, you may have heard men say this: nobody cares about men's mental problems. Nobody cares about men who are violated in their homes. No, who is nobody? Because for me, that nobody includes in a very strong way us. We don't care about us as Black men. We don't come to each other's houses and say, how are things really going with you? I see that you struggle. Can I be there for you? What's going on? We don't really have those conversations unless we are drunk, unless we are intoxicated in some way or form, or unless we find ourselves in spaces where it's just too much and it comes out maybe in a way that you regret. We often do not have intentional conversations seeking help from brothers. And that is African, as African men, to build a manhood inspired by what we see women need from us, because I think that's very important. We also need to ask, what does Africa need from men right now? It's not just about what happened 1,000 years ago. When we say, yeah, but you see, men, in my culture, men don't do that. But maybe we need to do it now. Because now we have young men sitting in front of computers, watching porn, getting very disturbing images and very disturbing information about what a woman should be, a good woman or an interesting woman. And they may start to build a fantasy around how they're going to find a woman that they're going to bond with based on very, very problematic information. Are we there to have that conversation? Yeah, I know you see in African culture, there's certain things that are private. We cannot afford for those conversations to be private anymore. We need to have that conversation from 10 years old. When our boys are 10 years old, we cannot, no, I'm going to wait until he's 18, he will understand. Too late. It's too late. So my point is, I want us as African men to interrogate ourselves more. And some men will respond to that and say, oh, so we're going to sit and say that we are the problem. Yes, we should be always meek and mild and understanding. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we also need to find our power, but a different power than what has become normalized right now. Africa does not benefit from us walking around with a toxic understanding of what masculinity and manhood would be. Within the strength of an African man, there must also be a lot of care. There must also be a lot of consideration. There must also be a lot of what we often refer to as soft values. Because our children need us. Our sons need us. Our daughters need us. Daughters need us first and foremost as a role model for seeing what a man can be, seeing what a man can do, seeing how a man can carry himself, especially when he's burdened with all the pressures of the world, especially when he's criticized, especially when he's forgotten by everybody, especially when he goes through the hardest time of his life. Going through success, when everything is working, you may not learn so much from that. But how do men move when we are at our darkest? Young men need to see us in that space so that they can start to build templates around what they could be aspire to be when they step into their form of manhood. And we live at a time When I think this youth bracket that we have in South Africa is also very disturbing. We say that, you're young until 35. And we have all these 35-and-a-half-year-old people who run around and claiming to be youth. No, you are actually an adult. You need to take adult responsibility. You already have 2 children. So by definition, you are an adult. So you can't mask behind this youth behavior. I want us to, we spoke in the conversation about will. And maybe because our lives are hard and because we go through so much impossibilities, we need entertainment, or we feel that we need something softer and something not so serious. And why should I join an organization? And why should I go into all these problematic conversations? The point of it is not to go in it for the sake of the conversation. The point of it is to go in and find solutions. And for you to find solutions, you need to understand what your imbalance is. Because otherwise you think everything is a solution. And not all solutions are for you. And not all solutions are for you now. So you also need to know, what do you need now? And where can you find what you need right now? So I think I want to motivate African men. And as I'm saying that, let me also acknowledge the many African men who move very powerfully in this world. And powerfully in ways that maybe we haven't learned that African men should present their power. Men who are quiet, men who are kind, men who have said, if I can do one thing right in this life, it must be to be a father. People don't have to know me. I don't have to write a book. I don't have to have a movie written about me, but I'll be a good father. We may not even see that man, but we will see the result of that man, because those children have been able to be grounded in a way that many of us were not able to be. And I want us to aspire to make that normal, to make that part of the desired manhood. And that's the job we need to do. We cannot always keep blaming women, because we keep blaming women as if saying that I want to be a good man, but Black women are not looking for a good man. Black women are only looking for a man with 2 cars and a lot of money. But what women are you socializing with, really? Really, where do you socialize with these women? Because I know a lot of women who are not representing that. So I'm not sure where you find all these women who only want cars, who only want, So you also need to self-check yourself. If you say that's not the woman you want, why are you spending time with them? They are very clear. Let me tell you that. It's very easy to spot women who present themselves that way. So if you spend time with them, clearly that's what you want. You can't complain about them not being who you want when that's what you want. And this is my challenge to many men, that, I keep saying there's that woman who's problematic and toxic, because femininity can also be very toxic. But she may be the one who have figured out that it's easy to trick you because your ego is vulnerable. So she will lean into you. She will give you her number. She will say she missed you. She was asking, where were you yesterday? And now, okay. This woman, I can feel her. Yo. Now I'm feeling like a man. No, you are just in your ego. You're not feeling like a man. You're just feeling your ego blowing. And let me not just joke and dismiss that. That can be a powerful feeling. For a man who feels every day I'm oppressed, every day I go to work and I'm being treated as a small boy, every day I'm in my lack. I'm not dismissing that. That can be very powerful to feel like, she wants me, she likes me. But you must understand that it's a feeling. It's not something to build a relationship on. But next to that woman is the other sister, who is the one who reads, who is the one who's climbing the ranks to find herself being somebody who can lead and give direction to society. But in your eyes, she may be boring, because when you greet her, she's not falling all over you. She's not writing down her number as number 1. She may even take time to even open up that conversation, because as far as she's concerned, she's sitting here reading a book and you interrupting her reading the book. And now you want to be on a flirting thing. And she's like, I'm not there. I'm reading my book. I'm going to deal with other things later. But you walk away saying she's stuck up. She thinks she probably doesn't even like men. Women like this are problematic. They think of themselves too high. If you were a woman, wouldn't you want to think of yourself as high? Wouldn't you want to think of yourself as, would you give your number away to any man who comes along? You wouldn't. So appreciate that there are women in our world who hold us to a higher standard. And you calling that difficult, you saying that I question the validity of this woman, that's you being wrong, not her. So let's embrace and appreciate the many men that actually gives us examples of that, men and women, because I think sometimes women are also not used to seeing men perform those roles or be like that. There's this suspicion, like, I'm not sure if you are performing or if you can really be like this. But let's normalize that, because it's actually something that is possible. And as we read and deepen our understanding of where we come from and how we harmonized our societies, a very big chunk that we as brothers need to do is to harmonize ourselves, is to find our wounds and take the responsibility to find healing for it. And that's my challenge to every African man. We can, we must, and I hope you will say with me, we will. Ashe.